set boundaries, yes, but boundaries that come from a place of fear and insecurity, or boundaries that come from a place of hurt, past hurt. I'll get to it in the end, but I do believe there's such a thing as unhealthy boundaries, although it is to protect yourself. It's not coming from a good place, and so it doesn't really serve the purpose that it's supposed to. So just real quickly, the foundation of what we spoke about last week was, as I said, valuing yourself, understanding what are your core values, and establishing boundaries from that place, understanding who you are, becoming self-aware. So many of us are not self-aware. I think I only became fully self-aware maybe in my late 30s. I started to become, such a long time to take to become self-aware. But I think it was only in my late 30s I got to a place where I fully understood who me, my values, my word, started understanding, what makes me tick, what doesn't, what I can't tolerate, what I'm willing to tolerate, that kind of thing. And I was able to, set boundaries. Yeah, I mean, I had boundaries before, but yeah. So we spoke a lot about you, about yourself, and you being in a healthy place first before even setting boundaries, right? We made reference to the scripture that says to guard your heart, because out of it comes the issues of life. And that is such a true thing. That is actually the Bible saying to us to set boundaries, guarding your heart, and so that was a powerful thing that came out of it. Also, the importance of understanding that setting boundaries doesn't always mean that the person that you're in a relationship with, whether it's a family member or whatever, they're not necessarily going to respect your boundaries or be happy with the boundaries that you set for yourself, but that shouldn't, cause you to back down, right? Just stick to your boundaries. So basically it was about, ourselves. And you could always go back to the YouTube link and take in last week's session if you were not able to, if you weren't on last week, right? This week, however, we're going to focus more on boundaries in relationships. And by that, I mean romantic relationships. And ladies, I'll tell you something. This is a really extensive topic, discussion that could go on. And for me to be able to get into every aspect of it, it's a lot. Every human being is different. Every woman is different. And so I think there's some basic boundaries that everyone should have in a relationship. And I'm going to go into what those are, at least some of them. But personally, you can have different boundaries for yourself based on the things that affect you or don't affect. Everybody's different, right? So, okay, my boundaries when it comes to, let's say, how conflict is resolved, may be a little more lenient than yours, because of my personality, I might be able to, if you shout at me, not gonna affect me. Like if you shout at me, I'm not gonna shrivel up and, gosh, and this is not an example. This is not good. I'm just being real, right? You shout at me, I probably just shout back, right? It's not gonna make me feel any way or whatever, right? Ladies, this is not me teaching you to shout back at your husband if he shouts at you, but I'm just saying, if it does happen that way, but for some people, they cannot handle anybody even raising their voice slightly at them. It gets them nervous. It makes them feel disrespected. They can't deal with it, right? And so everybody's different and able to tolerate different things, right? So tonight I'm going to talk about boundaries in relationships. What I'm going to try to do is establish in that stage to help you to choose better, because having healthy boundaries will actually help you to choose a better partner. So I want to first go into the boundaries that you should have even before you get into a relationship. So while leading into, let's say, a friendship with someone, and then from there go into the boundaries in a relationship, right? So it's kind of a two-part. Boundaries that I think there are more boundaries, yes, But these that I highlighted, every single couple should have. And this goes for married. Okay, I get you. Yeah. So now, oh gosh, now when I say shouting, yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, everybody different, right? Yeah. So you're shouting. I can hardly shout. But yeah. I mean, not all the time, but you'll get where I'm going, right? I know some people can't deal with shouting at all, right? And sometimes it could come from a place in their past, growing up. Somebody shouting at them represents danger. Maybe their father shouted at them, and every time he would shout, it was when he was drunk. Only when he was drunk, he would shout. And then from there, it would go to more maybe abuse. So I could understand. And shouting is not a healthy way to resolve any conflict. I'm just saying, yeah. Right. So let me start with today's session. It's going to be very insightful, ladies. I encourage you all to listen, pay attention, take notes if you have to, especially if you are not in a relationship or you are in the beginning phases of a relationship. It's going to benefit you greatly, ladies, right? So listen, right? So let me just say quickly, in this context of relationships, what boundaries are. Boundaries are rules you set for your body, your emotions, for your time, for your possessions, for your relationships, right? So it's like a set of rules that you sort of internalize. It may not be a rules that you print out and hang up in your house, but it's like a set of rules that you develop for yourself to protect yourself, right, in a relationship. And we went over the different type of boundaries last week, right? Now, important to note, they are not rules about how someone else should act or conduct their life, right? These rules, these boundaries has nothing to do with your partner. It's important to understand that in relationships, right? You can never be responsible for someone else's choices. Ladies, listen to this, right? You can never be responsible for someone else's choices, for your partner's choices. But you are responsible for how you let those choices affect you, affect your life, affect your mental health, affect you physically, financially, right? I want to read that again because this is very, very important. It's about taking boundaries, is all about taking responsibility for you, right? So I'm reading that again. You can never be responsible for someone else's choices, but you can be responsible for how you allow their choices to affect you, right? And so boundaries can protect you in that aspect. Boundaries are not about controlling your partner. You cannot control them, but you can control you. You can control your choices. You can control your actions, right? You get to decide when it's time to end a conversation, if the person is disrespectful. You get to decide how much access you give someone based on how they treat you, right? You don't get to judge them based on how they treating you. That's wrong. I mean, when I tell people that I could sense, a little, like, but how you could say that? I cannot, as I just read, I cannot control how you treat me or the choices that you make in your life personally, right? But I could decide, one of the things that I could decide is how much access I give you, how much of me I give to you based on how you treat me. And so if somebody's treating you badly and you are continually complaining about it, it's actually not their fault. I know that it's easy to throw blame and say, well, it's them, it's how. But if you don't like how you're being treated, you don't continue to give that person access to your emotions, to your heart. You don't continue giving of yourself to that person, and they're not, giving you that same energy in return. Now, in a marriage, is a whole other ball game when you're dealing with a marriage, right? Although yes, this does apply to a point as well in marriage, it's really different in marriage, right? But this is for people who I would say, you getting to know somebody, you're in a relationship, you're dating, you're courting someone, right? A lot of people think, right, ladies, here this too, this is important. Please listen to me. Please, please, please. You'll have me begging you to listen to me, pay attention, and to not to think that you know better than me. All right? Please. A lot of people think that they will push their partner away, or let's say a friend that you're now getting to know, somebody that you just started dating. You'll push them away if you establish boundaries too early, right? When in fact, someone who has a strong sense of self-awareness, and acts according to their own integrity, someone who is confident, is actually very, very attractive to men. I shouldn't say someone, women who are confident in who they are, self-aware, they act according to their own integrity. They set boundaries. They're not afraid to say what their boundaries are. That is actually an attractive quality to a man, depending on how it is communicated. Now, in that I just described, it could go really wrong if you communicate that in a prideful way. But I am talking about a woman who is not afraid to pull away from somebody, right? Who is not respecting their boundaries, or who they feel is disrespecting them, or let's say who they feel, you might feel at a certain point in the friendship or relationship that somehow you feel like you are giving more. Like, I'm the one just giving. Like, how come it's just me giving? How come I'm the one who always suggests that we go out? How come I am the only person that initiates chats, right, on WhatsApp? How come I'm the only person that would initiate a phone call? So there comes a time, somebody who is confident and not afraid to set boundaries, and knows who they are, that person could say, I'm pulling back. I'm not going to continue to invest my everything into this relationship. I want to see where this person is really at. I want to see if I pull back now, what that's going to lead to. Is that going to be the end, right? And so what happens to a lot of women when they realize that they set their boundaries, and the guy may be pulling back to a sense, or his energy changed towards you, that kind of thing. Instead of sticking to your boundaries, you get desperate, you get needy, because you try to hold on to him because you're like, shucks, right? If it didn't come from a place of confidence and self-awareness, if it was bluffing with the boundaries, when he started, let's say, maybe retaliate or question, or like, why you have to be this way, and if you are doing that, if at that time you have a sense of fear of losing the person, what happens is the person going to become needy? No. And be like, okay, well, of course, you will give in. And if you see the person drifting away, you'll actually get desperate now to pull them back in. Because it was like, oh, shucks, I didn't know this would have gone so far. I didn't know this was going to pull them away, push them away. Sorry. No. If you set boundaries and this person is not respecting your boundaries, or if you find yourself giving, and this person, it's not being returned to you, it might be that the person does need to go away. Why try to hold on to someone like that? Then it would just be you exerting all your energy and all your time, investing everything emotionally into this relationship, and you're not getting that in return, right? So establishing those kind of boundaries early, you get to see where this person really stands, where you are concerned, right? If you pursue a guy and make yourself available, no matter how he treats you, or no matter how many times he disregards your boundaries, it really lessens your appeal, ladies, right? Let me say that again. If you pursue a guy, no matter how he treats you, no matter how many times he disregards your boundaries, you might think, well, excuse me, this is what I need to do to keep him because I don't want to run him. After a while, the kind of appeal and the magnetism that might be happening within that relationship, it will diminish. Believe it or not, ladies, men, as much as they like to be chased and pursued, they also like a challenge. And they also like a woman who is able to stand by her standards and her boundaries, and somebody who is confident. And so, I have certain kind of men who kind of prey on the attention of women as well. And when they realize, wait now, she not falling head over heels over me. She not doing everything possible to keep this relationship going. She not behind me like a hound dog, right? Like how some women could be behind men, ladies, forgive me, right? But some women act sometimes desperate when they get a man, especially if they consider the man really handsome or really, let's say the person is really wealthy. Let's say you get a catch, right? Go down this road with me a little bit, ladies, right? Like walk down the road with me, right? You're single for a while and you meet a guy. You're single for a little while, single for 3 years, 4 years, right? And you meet a guy and he just so happened to be handsome, maybe not all that handsome, but he rich. He good looking, but he richer than he good looking, right? And everybody telling you, girl, you hit the jackpot. Girl, you get through in life. Pick up your whole self. Hold on to that man. Everybody telling you that, right? Hold on to that man, you know. Don't let him go, you know, right? And there's you, get through. But behind closed doors, right? Behind closed doors, he is disrespectful. He treats you somehow, maybe because he's rich or handsome or whatever. He thinks he's all that. He treats you not like an equal, but like you should be grateful to be with him. You feel disrespected, you feel unheard, you don't feel valued. But because you think he's a catch, right? And that you should just be grateful to have a man like this liking you, you tolerate his crap, ladies. That is a woman who does not have self-confidence, who does not value herself. That is a woman who's placing more value on having a relationship or being loved by a man or having this type of romantic relationship than having value in themselves, right? And so a man like that now, who are accustomed, how I got there, right? Who are accustomed having women basically throw themselves at him. When they meet somebody who not behind them, not total bay behind them, that's a patois word. Anybody want to say in the comments what total bay means, right? You're free to put it in the comments, right? All I know is I hear my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my mother use it in the context that I'm using it now, but I'm not sure what it means, right? So you're total bay over this man. And for him, that is actually less attractive than a woman who sticks to her boundaries, who showing him that I'm not taking your crap, that I'm willing to walk away from this relationship if you don't make certain adjustments. It actually is going to make him like, whoa, what about this woman? Different boy. She different boy. She not playing, right? And listen, ladies, if he don't want you because you sticking to your boundaries, let him go. Listen, you will be living in prison with a rich man and you'll have no value. You'll have no sense of worth. Most likely he would cheat on you because his thinking is you lucky to be with me. And yeah, so it's not worth it, right? So giving that person space, pushing, nobody tell me what total they mean. Crystal Martin, where you? I know you know a little patois. You don't know what total bay mean? Anybody? Must have somebody in the school that know what total bay mean. Talk to me. It means stupidity, right? So you're stupid over the man, right? I know I was using it in proper context, right? You're stupid over the man, right? Thank you, darling. Right. So when you pull away and stick to your boundaries, it allows you to see now what that person really wants. If that person is going to continue to pursue me, or if they're going to pull away too and say, well, I ain't able with all that work, right? I ain't able with all that work. Let me go on to the next one that might be easier, right? Ladies, trust me, he will be doing you a favor if he decides to walk away, right? And this is just the introductory, right? We haven't gotten to the meat of it yet. Setting boundaries is about honoring yourself and knowing what you deserve in a relationship, right? I'll say that again. Setting boundaries is about honoring yourself and knowing what you deserve in a relationship, right? So things like, and I'm going to just say some things that you deserve so you have an idea of what I mean, because I realize, ladies, from talking to women, counseling women over the years, that they're not even sure about what they deserve in a relationship. Because they grew up in perhaps such an unhealthy environment, and they saw an extremely poor example of what a marriage should be in their house, in their home, or let's say among their peers. they think that they accept certain behaviors from a man because it's what they saw their mother accept from their father. And so they don't even know what they deserve. They don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. And so we spoke again last week, we spoke about having core values and knowing who you are, which kind of ties in with this, right? And so you deserve, ladies, even during a conflict, you deserve to be respected, right? You deserve that. That is not asking too much. Some women even afraid to ask for respect. No, you deserve respect in a relationship, right? You deserve to be heard. You have a voice. Not because you're a woman, you don't have a say or you can't have an opinion. You deserve a voice. You deserve to be heard. This person needs to know who I am, how I feel, what you do, how what you do to me makes me feel. You deserve to be heard, right? You deserve kindness, right? You deserve security as a woman. You deserve to know that when I'm out with this man, I don't always have to be looking over my shoulder to see if he watching another woman. You know, he always makes you feel safe and loved and special, right? You deserve that. You deserve honesty, right? Come on, you deserve honesty. Asking a man, your boyfriend or your husband, to be transparent with you about their whereabouts is not asking too much. Ladies, don't let them bamboozle you. Bamboozle is not patois, sorry. Ladies, don't let the man mess up your head and make you think that it's too much. You're in a very good place, Rishma. This is a very good time to be looking at programs like this when you're single, not when you're in a relationship and catching your tail and trying to see how you could fix it. When you're single, now is the time to take it in, right? Rishma, welcome. I hope it's able to help you. Yeah, so you deserve honesty. Asking for transparency in certain things, it's not too much. That's not too much. You're in a relationship, right? You are supposed to be able to be transparent, right? You also deserve exclusivity. It's me and you in a relationship. I don't need to feel like it's me, you, Mary, and Suzanne, right? And this is an exclusive relationship. So I shouldn't be asking, it's not asking too much for me to say, hey, could you not spend so much time with Susie? I find you spend too much time with Susie. Like, why do you go over by her twice a week or treat? That's, ladies, you are not the wrong one for asking why or for wanting to get an answer in that situation, right? And so I just said those things for you to have an idea because I know some of you all came from a very unhealthy environment. So it's for you to get an idea of what you deserve in a relationship, what you deserve as an individual going into a relationship, right? None of these things it's asking too much, right? If people valued themselves more and actually knew what they deserve in relationships before they got into relationships, there are many people that they would not even consider. Yeah, it's your right. There are many people that you would not consider. There are many you would start probably talking to somebody and realize in 2 weeks now I can't deal. Nah, that is not for me, right? When you know who you are, when you value yourself more, there's certain things you just will not be able to tolerate. Certain relationships that you'll realize it will go nowhere. You're not going to end up in a toxic relationship for years. Not if you value yourself, right, ladies? And so that is important. The things that you deserve, right? So you need to know that. Listen, if you came from an unhealthy environment when it came to marriage and relationships, and you want to cement these things in your heart and your mind, nothing is wrong with writing them down, with getting a journal and saying, you know what, I deserve kindness, I deserve respect, my voice matters, my opinion matters, right? Write it down. If you need to, for it to become more part of your identity, because I understand how people could just naturally fall into the mold that their parents kind of set for them and what they saw growing up. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's very common. It does happen, right? So I'm going to give you all now some boundaries that you should set even before you get into a relationship. This is going to protect you from falling in love with everybody you talk to for more than a week, right? These boundaries are going to protect you from being hurt by 5 different people because you got attached too quickly, right? So this is before dating. This is in the stages. These are boundaries that you should naturally set in the stages of getting to know someone, right? In the early stages of the relationship, right? Everyone should set boundaries and know how much access you are willing to give someone that you are just getting to know, right? Even in the types of conversations that you are having with people, right? Ladies, do not overshare. Do not overshare. You don't start talking to somebody in a few days and tell them about your deep issues you had in your home growing up, or tell them about your past relationships, who you slept with, if you had, past sexual relationships. You don't get into personal things with somebody when you just start. Don't overshare, ladies. I know sometimes loneliness gets us to a place where from the time somebody opens up to us and it's just lend us an ear, we go off and we tell them our whole life story. I would not advise you. This is a healthy boundary for any friendship, actually. Yeah, Dominique, it's a dangerous thing to do, to open up yourself and become vulnerable to any human being too early. Even not only with a man, even with friends, it's very dangerous. Even with friends, guys, when you meet somebody, you're just starting to get to know them, don't tell them about you don't reveal your weaknesses to them, not even your strengths. You don't go into your family. You don't talk to these things about people that you do not know. So you do have to be guarded at the start of every relationship. Trust me, it is better to be very selective in what you say to people, what kind of conversations you have, than to overshare, right? And so this is important. Decide how much access you are giving this person that you are just getting to know. You're not in a relationship yet. This is an example of one of the first boundaries that you need to set, right? Big one. This is the first one. How much of my time am I going to give this person? You need to set boundaries with your time. You cannot start talking to someone today, right? And then you end up spending the whole day, the next day, talking to them to the point of neglecting your chores at home or your work or whatever, right? You just willingly, because somebody give you an ear and they're talking to you, maybe making you feel a little special, you just willingly give them all your time. Drop everything, right? Now it's all about you. I just meet you. So ladies, no, you gotta take it easy. It's important to not get carried away early when you start talking to somebody. Do not drop the important things that you do for yourself. Don't start neglecting you. This is how setting a healthy boundary would look in this scenario, right? You realize you're talking to them, let's say an hour past, maybe it could be WhatsApp, a phone conversation, but I realize now that it takes a while for people to actually have phone conversations. It starts on WhatsApp, right? So you ask them, how long you're talking? Okay, we're talking for 3 weeks or a month or whatever, but we never actually talk on the phone yet. And, that's fine. But you literally spend, every waking hour on WhatsApp with this person or however, Messenger, however you're talking to them, Instagram, wherever, right? So this is how it would look. You're talking to them, you're enjoying the conversation, but you are being intentional. So you say, hey, it's always nice chatting with you, but I need to go now. I have to exercise, right? Or something as simple as this, right? You want to carry on the conversation. And now remember, this is a boundary that you set this is a boundary you have set for yourself in the start of this friendship, right? Because you don't want to get carried away. Because ladies, you all could tell me in the chat how many of you know if you talk to somebody 3, 4, maybe 5 days consecutively and you do it for several hours on WhatsApp, you can become attached to that person very quickly. Am I lying? No, you don't have to answer me. I'm not lying, right? You can become attached quickly. You could start after 5 days watching your phone every second to see if he message, right? Yeah, watching your phone every second to see what he message. It's 5 days straight. What he message me, right? Don't go down that road. Too early for that, right? This is a friendship you all are developing. So make sure, but this is going to be hard for you to do. Yes, always check in. This is going to be hard for you to do, ladies, if it's not a boundary that you establish beforehand. It's something that you have to set. So the single people on the call, or let's say you're in the first stages of getting to know somebody and not in a relationship yet. Having this information puts you in a really good place to say, you know what, okay, I will regulate my time. I'm not going to get carried away because I don't even know where this is going. So you don't want to be investing all your time. You just getting to know somebody, right? So you tell them something like this. Exercising is important to do. So saying, hey, okay, nice talking to you. I love chatting, but I got to go now, going to exercise. Person could say, hey, great, I appreciate that. She have to exercise. But I going to take it further, right? Tell them something like, hey, we talk, we are talking. Anyway, I have to go now. I have to go wet my plants. Right? Let them stay there and say, wet her plants. She ended this conversation to wet her plants. Yes. You are ending the conversation to go wet your plants. You establish, remember, this is somebody you know how to talk to. You building a friendship with them. And so you're letting them know, here, what is going to do early for that person. This person the guy you're talking to gonna know, all right, this one, you see this one, she different. It's not a desperate woman just looking to talk and share her whole life because a man giving her air or attention, right? She about things, right? She have a life, right? She have a life. Leave them a little desperate or anxious to have another conversation with you. Don't take it in, don't overdo it. Let them sit down and think, wow, this girl, remember, I'm not talking about you in a relationship with somebody dating or courting and you're playing games. I'm talking about this is somebody you're not even dating. Is a friend. So you don't want to get carried away. You don't want to be misled by giving them too much. So you are setting boundaries, right? And your time is important, right? Your time is important. And I gave you an example of how you could do it, of how this person could know without you saying, because it's going to be silly to say to the person, hey, I don't play, I just set my boundaries. It's not like this, you're doing it, right? So come 6 o'clock, this conversation, and no darlings, right? You have to use tact. You ain't want to run the man, right? So you just say, oh my gosh, you pretend a little bit, 6 o'clock, I have to run. I really have to exercise. Nice chatting. We'll pick up again tomorrow. Not even later, tomorrow, right? That person is going to start to respect your time early. It's all right, this woman don't play. I realize this is important to her, that is important to her, maybe her family is important to her. Whatever it is you're telling them you're going to do, they're going to respect you, trust me, rather than you just spending hours with this person that you barely know, right? I know you're saying, well, I want to get to know them, but that's not the way. Not like that, not so early, right? That gets people in trouble. It gets you to a place of making commitments and getting emotionally invested way too fast, right? Now, we're still talking about boundaries in the friendship stages. And that first one was your time and your time, right? How much time you spend with this person. The other one is the type of conversations you're going to have with this person, right? This is very important, ladies. Remember, this is a friend. This is a friend of the opposite sex that you are getting to know, right? You are not going to have anything sexual with this person, right? He is not my man. I shouldn't be talking unsexual with my man either, right? He's not my man. Your friend I'm getting to know. I want to see if maybe you have the qualities that I like, right? I'm trying to figure out what your core values are while you're trying to figure out mine, right? But you lying down on your bed 12 o'clock in the night and saying, so what kind of kiss you like the best? Like when your last girlfriend, how you used to kiss her? How you used to kiss? Like how much times all you kiss? Like you French kiss or normal kiss or you, right? Is map now. Where think that gonna go? Right? That's not the kind of conversation you have with a friend, right? So this is something that again you have to be intentional about, right? not only what you're saying, but when you're saying it too. I remember somebody brought up this conversation a while back, like the time that you talk to somebody, like the time of day, I mean, and they were saying that, you know, if you're talking to somebody of the opposite sex, somebody that you're not necessarily a boyfriend or girlfriend, or let's say a courting person, you know, you don't necessarily want to be talking to them 2 o'clock in the morning on your bed with a sleepy voice, worse yet, a video call, right? Not a good idea, right? Remember what we're trying to do here, ladies, right? Is not get ourselves too connected too quickly and end up in a situation where we realize I invested too much, actually develop feelings for this person, and then what, right? So you have to set boundaries. So the types of conversation: no sexual talk. I ain't talking to you about my past relationships. You died, none of your business yet. You'd rather know if I sleep with anybody, who I kiss, what, those things are none of your business. We are friends getting to know each other. If the person starting to talk to you and you realize it's like, little, come on, you're not ready for this. You ain't ready for nobody to come on to you. You just getting to know this person. But you're fine. He's saying things like, girl, when I saw you, I'll use church. Hey, this morning when I saw you in church, you look real good. That pants fit you real good, right? Say, okay, that's a little weird. Anyway, moving right along and change the subject, right? Say, okay, don't even say thanks. Why are you watching me in my pants and telling me I look good in it for? Right? Where are we going with this? Remember, this is a friend you're talking to. You don't want to become connected to this person. So you stop them one time. Okay, I just giving you an idea how to say it. Everybody have their way, right? Yeah, you can tell them that's what this church you're focusing on, about my pants and how I look good today. But if you realize they start paying you compliments, to kind of, you know, and this is early, right? Change the subject. Change the subject. Simple. Nothing wrong if the man nothing wrong if he shooting his shot. And this is him trying his thing, right? So he compliment you. But you, remember I said you can't control him, right? You can't decide what he's going to say and what you're not going to say. But you could decide where this conversation is going to go. And if this is going to pull me into a place that I don't want to go. And so at that point, you could say, okay, all right, well, let's change our subject now. I don't want to, you know, school. So yeah, and you change the subject. Let me tell you something. 1 or 2 things will happen. He would say, he'd be like, wait, boy, you don't want me to talk about that. Say, well, it's not that. I mean, but I don't, you know, I don't really want to get into that kind of thing. We just having a cool conversation, whatever. Or he might read the play and say, okay, this woman not playing, right? This woman ain't playing. Let me go down this road. And he will hold back. So somebody who is respectful and really does want to get to know you. The boy could have been genuinely shooting a shot, but he's respectful and he really wants to get to know you. He's going to respect that. He will see what you did there and he will not do it again until, of course, you know, he realized, well, you're more open to that kind of thing, right? But if you start to go down that road and say, well, you're fine. I find I too fat. You find I look good in the pants. You're playing games. You're playing games. Stop it. Stop it. Okay? So even your conversations, ladies, you have to have boundaries. If this is remember, we're not into the relationship yet, right? We getting to know somebody. The person will know that they can't cross. If you are, if you stick to your boundaries when it comes to the conversations, the person will eventually know what lines not to cross. The person will know what lines not to cross and they will know where you're coming from, right? This is important too. You get to decide when you're ready to cross that line, right? And by that, I mean, you get to decide. You don't let that person push you and don't become vulnerable because they're saying all these nice things and you get to decide. And so you keep boundaried up until you're ready to let go a little bit in that area, right? Another important thing, ladies, this is another boundary for, you know, when you're in the friendship stages or even to have in your heart before you start talking to somebody. Stick to the big picture, right? This is important, ladies. Stick to the big picture. Stick to the why do I want to get married? What marriage is to me? Have a clear vision for your life, for your marriage, for what you think family life should be, even before you start connecting with people. if you stick to those core things, right? Why do I really want to get married? What is marriage to me? Do I have a clear vision? You should have a clear vision for the type of man you want, for the type of marriage you want, how you want your home, your children to be raised. You can't just walk around without a vision. If you are walking around there without a vision and just meeting guys, you'll end up bouncing your head over and over and over and thinking, why I can't meet a good fella? Why I can't meet? It's because you have no boundaries. You don't even know where you're going in life. You don't even know what you want out of a man. So therefore, you're open to almost anybody who pays you attention, right? And so you have to have a clear vision for your life before starting to connect with people. This will eliminate certain type of people right away, right? It will help you to, it will also help you to naturally attract and align people with similar visions, right? By this I mean, so let's say your spiritual goals, you know that you want to be married to somebody who's God-fearing, who loves God, who upholds the laws of God, who is considerate of what God, wants for their life, who wants to do God's will, right? Somebody who wants to have children, who has, all these things. So if you meet somebody and in your first couple interactions with the person starts to tell you, you find out that the person, let's say, had sex with their previous partners, right? Like if that's that's the person's lifestyle. They're not, it's just that they're in a relationship. You have sex with somebody, you realize that this person right now, you realize one time, okay, this person, you can't be God-fearing and having sex with your girlfriends at the same time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, right? And so you realize, nah, he's not for me, right? If you start talking let's say you start talking to somebody, nice guy, nice personality, wonderful values, kind to you, everything. But you realize the man is an atheist. That's the end of conversation. Where am I going after that? How can we possibly connect? So this type of, this boundary, if you have this mindset and vision for yourself before, it will eliminate people early. It will eliminate certain people that you might see and find attractive. Like you might see this guy in the office and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this man is attractive. And he looked put together, he have a good job and everything. But let's say you hear certain things about him, right? Before even talking to him, I am not even venturing to talk to that man. But I don't want to go and talk to him, and then he sucked me in with his charm and good looks. So immediately, like, I could never be with a man like that. I mean, for me, as a young person, listen, the lookers, guys who were like real, handsome, all the girls running them down. I remember there was a guy, very popular. This is when I was I left school already. So it was a year after I finished Form 5. There was this guy, he was a dancer, he used to do DJing and thing. Handsome. I mean, not everybody cup of tea, but handsome. Very cutting edge. Girls loved him. Right? He used to go to QRC. I had a neighbor. Right now, everybody like, no, I'm being honest with you all. I never thought that I would ever end up with this guy in any way, because in my heart, I'd be like, I cannot be with a man like that every woman wants. Sorry. Let somebody else handle that. I cannot deal with that, right? But I went so far. This guy was so popular and everybody. My neighbor, who I left school already. He finished Form 5, he graduated in QRC. His father asked me to go to his graduation with him. And I was like, immediately, I was like, yes, I'm going, because here why I want to go. And I gave him one stipulation. I told his father I'll do it, but it's because we wanted to go and see the guy, because he was a dancer. And so we know the party after would have been like real vibes, right? And I told the guy when I spoke to him, I will go, but my friend have to come with me. a girlfriend, right? Just as she have to, I said, I'm not going to, if she don't come, because she really like the guy too. And both of us, when I basically used this boy and went to Curiosity Grad with him, just to see, not even to talk, because I know I couldn't talk to him. Not just to see the boy and for us to be like two little clowns. And oh my God, he's cute. Look how he dancing. Look how he dressed. Look. Right? See that kind of man? I could never. Hazel, your name is scary. Hazel Manning, your name, it's intimidating. I know you're not the Hazel Manning, but just saying, right? Yeah. So guys like that, I gave you all that story to say, guys like that, I know it's fake, I know, but that's why I say guys like that, I had an automatic boundary. I not even going there, right? I not, that's good. I good. Can't deal with that, right? People always, everywhere you go, woman staring him down. I mean, them kind of men need women too, but not me, right? So, right, so that will eliminate what your spiritual goals are for marriage, the type of family you would like, how you would like your children to be raised. These things are important to know upfront, right? Yeah, so that is just an idea of some of the, I don't want to go into that too much, certain types of boundaries. I think those are areas that people always slip up in and cause them to get attached too quickly. Spending too much time with the person, talking to the person, the types of conversations they have, and not having, even before all that, not having like a vision for what the type of man you want, the type of life you want. I'm not having proper core values. It causes you to be open to any type of guy, right? Just because maybe you're attracted to them. That's not a qualification for a boyfriend, ladies. It's not, right? So it's one, but it's certainly not the most important qualification for choosing somebody, right? Good night to my namesake, Onika, spelled with 1K. Nice to have you on, right? So we're moving on. We're coming up to the boundaries in relationships shortly. Setting healthy boundaries requires self-awareness, right? Listen to this. If you have to take notes, take it. Self-awareness, communication skills, and assertiveness, right? I want to talk about the assertiveness a little bit. Actually, communication as well, and assertiveness, because we spoke a lot about self-awareness before. Communication skills and assertiveness, I think, is where people have issues, right? How you communicate your boundaries is very important. You do not want to come across too much like a diva, or like come across to the other end now, the guy looking at you as like, gosh, boy, I can't handle she boy. She's a piece of work. You don't want to come across like that to the person. And your boundaries, in this case, like what we're talking about, it doesn't even necessarily mean you have to speak them and say, well, I'm not tolerating this and that. It's by what you do. The person is going to pick up where you stand, right? And who you are, and know what lines you're able to cross, right? And eventually communication is important, but not at all stages, right? Assertiveness, though, is where a lot of people get tripped up with the assertiveness, right? Assertiveness involves expressing your feelings openly and respectfully. It does not entail making demands on the person. That is not what assertiveness in boundary, communicating your boundaries entails, right? I'm going to read that again, ladies. Listen, I think many women mistake this, right? And they end up trying to boss around their partner or their husband. Assertiveness involves expressing your feelings openly and respectfully, right? It does not entail making demands on your partner. It requires the partner to listen to you, though, right? Depending on how you communicate. And I've been married 21 years, and I can tell you all, a sure way to get my husband to not listen to me is if I communicate badly, like how I communicate what I want to say. I could have a very valid point. I could be feeling a certain way, and I'm expressing it. I'm saying what I feel on. But if I say it in a certain way, because he has boundaries, he's not hearing me and the conversation not going to get anywhere because he wouldn't be able to handle, if I'm communicating disrespectfully, I know he wouldn't be able to handle it. So I'm basically wasting my time because he's not going to hear me. He's not going to hear the real core of what I have something valid to say. But because I'm not saying it, I'm not communicating it effectively, it's going to just fall by the wayside. He's going to say, don't talk to me like that. Why are you talking? Why are you shouting? Why are you? And what I have to say is going to be end up on the back burner. And how I say it is going to end up on the forefront. And a whole other argument will develop from that, right? Anybody who is married on the call, I am sure you could agree with me that that has happened to you perhaps several times, right? If you're on the call and that has happened, you could say it in the comments, say, yeah, I understand what you are saying. That has happened to me several times, right? It's been a little distracted here. Yeah. So it's very important. So I want to say it again, ladies, right? Assertiveness involves expressing your feelings openly and respectfully. It does not involve making demands on your partner. It requires your partner to listen to you. And so if your end goal, when you are being assertive and letting your partner know about your boundaries, if your end goal is for them to listen, to respect what you say, you want to be heard, you have to be intentional about how you communicate to your partner, right? Setting healthy boundaries requires you to assert your needs and priorities as a form of self-care, right? You can't look at it as me asking for too much. It's not you being needy. Those are healthy boundaries, right? It's as remember I listed the things that you deserve in a relationship. You're not asking too much to ask for respect, right? So be as clear and straightforward as possible. Do not raise your voice, right? Do not raise your voice. Men have a big problem with disrespect, ladies. How many of you have figured that out? That you've been in enough relationships or you're married long enough to know that men have a big problem with disrespect. Am I telling the truth? Or that's not true? I'm telling the truth, okay? They can't deal with it, right? So be clear, straightforward, without raising your voice, without being disrespectful to them, right? Accept, this is important. Yes, Onika, facts. Accept any discomfort that arises as a result, whether it's guilt, shame, or remorse, right? So when you are, yeah, they do like embarrassment either, especially in front of people, can't deal with that. They can't deal with that at all. Can't deal with that. But no woman should be doing that to their man, though. When I see a woman being disrespectful to a man publicly or, you know, embarrassing him publicly, it doesn't show up the man, you know. To me, the woman is the one that I'm like, whoa, does she know how this looks? Is she seeing how she's projecting herself right now? The woman is the one that comes across as the villain, not the man, even though he might be the villain. And he just gets you to a state of frustration, so you're communicating badly. People looking at you when you're disrespectful to your husband publicly, right? And it's no way for a lady to operate. And it's just, that's your husband. You protect your husband, you don't expose him, right? This is important, ladies, right? Listen to me. You have to accept any discomfort that arises as a result of you being assertive with your boundaries and sticking to them, whether you feel guilt, shame, or remorse, right? This assertiveness is, or lack of assertiveness is common with people who have poor boundaries or codependent, or people who are people pleasers, right? Sometimes adults have been raised by parents or caregivers who taught them that expressing their needs is a bad or selfish thing. And I think that's a problem in Caribbean homes, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, ladies. I don't think it's so much international thing, but certainly in our culture, let me speak for myself, right? Or they could chime in and agree if you want. as a child growing up in a Caribbean home, you don't have a voice. I didn't have a voice. If I use the word opinion around my father, it was like I cuss him. Well, like if I say, well, daddy, I just want to give you my opinion. My opinion did not matter. Voice, as a child, no. As a child, I take what I get, what dish out to me, I eat. No voice, right? And I know a lot of Caribbean homes, that's how children grow up. Wherever your parents, despite how you feel, wherever your parents say, do you take it, right? And so we grow up. No, I can't say no. No. I can't even fathom. Perhaps I could have said no to my mother, right? There we are, the highway, definitely. I could have said no to my mother, and I know perhaps I would have gotten a swift slap after, but somehow it was bearable with my mother. I could deal with it, right? I will have never ventured or tried or even come close to saying anything like no to my father or disagreeing with him or trying to express an opinion. Impossible, right? I did it once and it didn't turn out good. In my whole years growing up with him, once I did it when I was a teenager, and it was first and the last, right? But we didn't have a voice, especially maybe as a little girl, right? Might have been even worse, right? Than maybe a boy, I don't know. And so we grow up now thinking that that I am to take whatever is dished out to me from sometimes not only your male partners, your husband or boyfriend or whatever, but even from your friends. And you realize that sometimes you're afraid to assert yourself and have a voice and have an opinion, that you think that if I'm open and if I express myself, people might see me a certain way. No, and I think it came from that culture of how we grew up in the Caribbean, and it's not a good thing, right? And so adults, we have been raised to think that expressing our needs and opinions is selfish and it's bad. However, not accepting the discomfort that comes from setting healthy boundaries in adulthood means setting for unhealthy relationships that can cause resentment, manipulation, and abuse. Let me read that again because I will mangle it up, right? Sometimes adults have been raised by childhood caregivers, parents, who've taught them that expressing their needs is bad or selfish. Expressing your opinions, even saying how you feel, you can't do that, right? However, not accepting the discomfort that comes from setting healthy boundaries in adulthood means setting unhealthy relationships that can cause resentment, manipulation, and abuse. So we have to be, long story short, you have to be okay with the uncomfortableness that may come with setting boundaries in relationships, in all your relationships. Not everybody is going to accept your boundaries willingly or see them as valid. They may belittle you, but that does not mean that you have to back down. So you may find yourself sometimes in an uncomfortable situation, but that is just going to cause later on, if you just continue to give in, resentment, manipulation, and abuse, right? Be prepared for rejection in relationships. Now I'm talking about the early phase of friendship, right? Be prepared for rejection. It's not a bad thing. All it means is that this person is not willing to line up with your core values, not willing to respect your boundaries. It's fine. It's why you had these boundaries set in the first place, so that you can eliminate people who are not a good match for you, so that you can eliminate the possibility of going into an unhealthy relationship, right? And so if you feel rejected, when somebody pulls away, rather than make adjustments when you set boundaries, you're just going to have to accept that feeling for a while and move on. The worst thing you could do is try to reel the person back in by submitting to them, to allowing them to control you and disrespect your boundaries, right? Let them go. This is not a time to become anxious and try to pursue more. The person might, if you do start to become anxious and say, oh my God, I'm losing them, and you try to pull them back in, the person might stick around more. But what kind of relationship you're going to have? What kind of standard are you setting there, especially if this is early, right? So yeah, you have to be willing to accept the hurt that you may feel if it's early and the rejection. It's better, trust me, to let that person go than to stay in a relationship where they don't respect your boundaries at all, right? Right, so we go into the relationship boundaries now. You're in a relationship. Communicate them. Don't expect them to read your partner, to read your mind, or even to discern your actions. So you have to communicate them. Now, this is, you are in a relationship. We're talking about boundaries now that every person should have in a relationship, right? This is for everybody. You have to communicate them. This is not boundary, but first of all, you cannot expect the person to read your mind or say that they should have known. They should have known me. They should have known I didn't like this. No. Men slow. I don't know if they realize it. Men slow, you know. So you can't say, but he should have known by now. Up to now, he don't know I don't like them thing. No, no, no. Please communicate properly. Right? Oh gosh, Rishma. I was just joking. I mean, you know. I mean, they kind of yell slow sometimes, right? Gosh, if you have any men listening on YouTube, y'all are not slow. That is a bad thing to say. I forget we have men listening on YouTube. Some y'all are not, that's not a good thing to say, right? Men are not slow. Yeah. But ladies, we need to communicate and be clear. I said that before. Boundary number 1. And this is at the tip top of the relationship. When you realize it's no longer a friendship and we're going into a relationship, right? Listen to me, ladies. This will avoid it a lot. Do not move forward in the relationship unless the relationship is clearly defined. Do not move forward in a relationship with uncertainty as to who am I actually to this man and how am I actually fitting into his life, right? Do not give access to yourself without commitment, right? You will end up in a situationship. And so this person says to you, there's certain things you can't leave unsaid and think that the person will automatically know. People have been raised differently. And so this person starts to, you all spoke for a while, you realize this is somebody that you're compatible with, you like their values, whatever, you have stuff in common, blah, 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 right? And so things moving forward now. And you realize from the time you realize without anything being stated up front, that this is somehow, you expect to be exclusivity. You expect to be the only woman in his life, right? And yes, he like you. Yes, he wants to be in a relationship with you, but he not there yet. Let's say he's not there yet, but this has not been communicated, right? But yes, you're getting all the good stuff from him that seems like a relationship and you're moving forward. Big mistake, right? You need to, your relationship needs to be clearly defined. I am your girlfriend, you are my boyfriend. We are in a relationship and we are doing this because we enjoy each other's company. We have the same core values. We have the same goals in life. Or perhaps I love you. Whatever the case may be, we're moving forward in this relationship. It's now an official relationship. We courting, state it, define it, ladies. Right? Don't leave that unsaid. You could end up being in limbo for months or years. I have known people in situationships for years. Do not move forward. Watch me again. Do not give that person access to you, to your heart, to your emotions. Don't open up to them. Don't become vulnerable to them. Do not do those things without a commitment and without clearly, defined relationship moving forward, right? So that's number 1. Don't make the mistake, ladies. And let me tell you something. If you're afraid to get to this point because you think you will run him, then you should run. Do it, run him. If you are saying to me, well, I don't want to scare him off, so I don't want to make it feel like I want no big commitment, but I want to keep him rubbish. I'm telling you, you're going to end up 5 years going around in a circle with this man. And every time the topic of marriage come up, it's some kind of stupid excuse. Well, I want everything to be ready now. I want to have everything set now, not already ready yet now. I had to build the house first and I had to do this first. And what happened? 10 years later, same excuses, right? So we don't want that. That's number one, right, for relationship. Number two, this is a very important boundary. So important, ladies, right? Never get carried away. We spoke about this earlier, to the point in the relationship that you neglect yourself, you neglect your own time, you lose your individuality, you neglect your health, you neglect your time with God, you neglect your family, your friends. Basically, you throw everything and everybody because you had this man now, all in a relationship. You forget everything else. This relationship and this man becomes your world. If you are not intentional and you don't set boundaries, and I'll tell you how that will look, right? The relationship can consume you. Because guys, we spoke about this in other sessions. There are different phases in relationships, and in the honeymoon phase, woo, listen, you want to be with that person every second. Just when they stand up next to you, you're feeling a certain way. Yeah, it's like your heart racing. You ever, I asked this question already, you ever wasn't so in love with somebody that you lose your appetite and even your health starts to deteriorate? Talk to me. You lose your appetite, right? Rishma, you say you're single, huh? Yeah. You lose your appetite, can't sleep, all kind of thing, right? You lose yourself over this man. So you have to protect yourself. That's what guarding your heart is too, from becoming like that. It's going to happen to a point and it's good, but that can't last forever. And you can't build now your whole life around this man and this relationship, right? So what happens to a lot of people, they start to make the relationship their world, their whole world, right? I am saying stay grounded. Do not allow them to become, listen to me, ladies, your source of love, your source of security, and your source of self-worth and value. You need to always see and understand, right, ladies, that you are valuable without him, you are lovable without him, you are worth so much without him, that without him, you are lovable. Somebody else, I'm capable of being loved. Somebody else would meet me and love me if this man doesn't, if this thing don't work out, right? Don't ever see that person as your source. Even if you are married, ladies, watch me. Even if you are married, you cannot make a man the source of your love. The only person that should be a source of your love is God. And his love not ever going to run out. It is unfailing and it is unconditional. No man has that kind of love for you. Because when he starts to treat you in a way where you feel unloved, it will crush your world and destroy you. You will not know your head from your toe because you have made this man your world, right? Do not do that. So this is what these boundaries look like. I'm talking about getting carried away with this person, right? Both parties may have different ideas about the amount of time they should spend together. So even your time, you have to have boundaries, even in a relationship, right? One person might be chatty on WhatsApp, Instagram, or whatever, right? And so they want to talk with you all day. But at work, you cannot chat at work. You don't have time. You basically can almost not touch your phone. But the other person now, they feel it's a sign of love and affection if you talk to them all day. You have to come in. You as the one, let's say you cannot chat all day with this person, right? It's normally the other way around, though. The woman is the one who wants to talk all day and check in on you 5 times and ask you, where you had for lunch, where you had for breakfast, where you going, where you doing that, right? And the man busy working. Sorry, ladies, but it's normally that way it goes, right? You have to communicate that to the person. Say, listen, I love you. When I'm at work, if you message me and I do not respond to you until 4:30 or 5 o'clock, it is not an indication of that I don't care about you, I don't love you, or I don't whatever. I cannot. I'm busy at work. I'm not allowed to use my phone. When I pick up my phone, my boss looks at me cross-eyed. So please respect that and don't message me until 4:30, right? If you continue to message me, I can't answer, right? Because you can't control what the other person do, right? But you could not answer their messages if it is going to get you in trouble at work. So something like that, the person, you have to regulate your time, right? You could say things like, in the relationship, nothing is wrong with saying, listen, I can only see the only time I see my mother, let's say you don't live at home. The only time I see my mother is on a Sunday evening. And so I would like to be able to go by my mother on Sunday evening without you thinking that, well, I spending too much time, which spending too much time with my mother is once a week, right? So my Sunday evenings with you might be limited. I may not be able to go every Sunday, but I'm just letting you know that this is something I've been doing for a while and I will continue to do because I would like to see my mother once a week, right? That's nothing is wrong with having that type of boundary. It's a healthy boundary. Yeah, or lunchtime when you get a break, your message, right? So nothing is wrong with doing that, right? And if you can't respect that, then that's codependency. It's like, if you can't understand and respect and give your space is also a boundary that you could set. Not because I'm in a relationship with you, I have to give you my every single week and spare time is yours. No, I need time for me too and for the other people in my life. I don't drop the other people in my life because you are now a part of my life. And so you need to let your partner know, and you need to set boundaries for yourself. You need to be realistic too. You have friends that you love, family that you love, things that you love to do. This person needs to do that. I am not going to give up all these things that I love and loved before you because you are in my life now. So I will make adjustments, obviously. But it's not that I'm going to drop them. And so the person has to respect that. Ladies, I'm telling you this is an early red flag in a relationship. If, for example, if you've set that type of boundary with your boyfriend, if you're married, it's too late. Sorry, yeah, married, but too late, right? If you set that kind of boundary with your boyfriend and he doesn't like it at all and he wants you to actually cut off your friends and he doesn't want you to go and see your mother every week or every other week, that is a red flag. If you find that this man is pulling you away from the people and the things that you love and wants you to focus on him, it could look like, wow, this man really love me, boy. He want me for his whole self. No, ladies. No, you could be setting yourself up for an abusive relationship with a narcissist, or for somebody who would be physically abusive to you in the future, who wants to isolate you and control you. So it's important, ladies, to set those boundaries in the relationship. Let them know that I have a life outside of you. That is very important. Even for a married person. When you're married, you don't lose yourself, and just become, when I'm married, I didn't all of a sudden just become Mrs. Narayan and that's it. That's just who I am. No, I'm still Onika. I still have my desires, my needs, certain things that I have outside of my husband and my marriage. And so I don't just drop, everything that's unique to me to become your wife. That's not what a marriage relationship is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be him actually encouraging and enhancing my talents and abilities and whatever, encouraging me and vice versa, right? Not trying to, make me just be, everything is about you and about your needs and not me, right? And so, ladies, this is a red flag if you see this happening in your relationship early, right? Asking for space and time, if you find that you're becoming overwhelmed, that's not a bad thing. It don't mean you don't love the person. And if this happens to you now, this could be with a guy. I mean, you have to be careful. If a fella telling you all the time they want space, and you're not being excessive with the time you spend with him, that could be another scenario. But I'm saying if it's for a legitimate reason, let's say you are doing exams, you're doing a degree, you're doing your master's, doctorate, or whatever, and you tell your boyfriend, boy, I need 2 weeks of just studying. I wouldn't be able to see you for 2 weeks. We could chat now and again. But if he can't understand and respect that, I am telling you, ladies, something is wrong, right? I'm telling you something is wrong. So it's a red flag. And if you stick to your boundaries, and he might be a good indication that, this is a little tricky here, right? So that's number 2, not getting carried away, neglecting your life for this man, right? You have to have boundaries there. Number 3, discuss sexual boundaries early. Do not leave the sexual boundaries unsaid for too long. I'm not saying as all you say. I'm not saying as he say, yeah, okay, I want you to be my girlfriend. I want us to be in a relationship. I want to court you. I want to marry you someday. I'm not saying that as he says that. You say, well, me ain't kissing. I ain't not kissing no man until I get married. I'm not saying that, right? But do it early, right? Do it early, right? So don't leave it unsaid. Don't assume, ladies, that because you are both, let's say, Christians, right? You establish that. Let's say you both go to the same church or you both the same religion. Don't assume that that means that he's on the same page where sex is concerned, right? It's not something. This has to be. This has to be something that's a part of you, right? It's not something you can make up on the spot. It has to be a part of your core values. And so you should know these things before going into a relationship. I don't want to have sex until I'm married. I don't want to kiss this anybody except my husband. Or let's say I kiss 10 men before. Say I want to kiss our next one. I want to wait until it's my husband before I kiss. I don't want to hug. I don't want to whatever. Now, in terms of the sexual boundaries, I want to say it varies for everybody. That is the truth. I can't say it any other way. It really does vary for different people, right? I know more than 2-3 couples in my church, right? I know 3, right? I know 3 couples in my ministry, my church, who claimed, I can never know for sure, but I don't see any reason why they should lie, right? Especially to tell you after they're married, right? Which is the case. Who claimed that they never kissed each other until the wedding day, that their first kiss was literally when the pastor said, you may now kiss your bride. Now, I think that is commendable. I think that is excellent and commendable. If a couple could come together and establish that as a boundary, right? Yeah, goals, Lisa? So you let the person know upfront that there's certain things, because of just your self-worth and your value that I'm not willing to do. If kissing is one of them, make that known and ask the person the question, are you comfortable with that? Is this something that you think that you can do? And remember I said have this conversation early because, right, you don't want to have this conversation. Somebody's mic is unmuted. You don't want to have this conversation, ladies, a month in or 2 months into the relationship and realize that the person is okay with having sex outside of marriage, or they're okay with a lot of foreplay, a lot of touchy, that they have no boundaries in that area. They may not be okay with having sex outside of marriage, but they're liberal in other areas, right? And you find out the hard way. Or they might be in a car and they're talking and you're just turn to talk to each other. And you're like, yeah, so, and he's like, gosh, you're so beautiful, like, girl, and you're facing each other in the car, right? And I want to suggest, if you're trying to set boundaries and you're trying to uphold yourself sexually and you want to keep yourself pure, that you don't find yourself in those positions. And while you're talking and you're close, he busts a kiss on you, mwah, right? And you're like, why you did that? Let me don't wait for it to get there, right? So that's what I'm saying. Do it early. Lisa asks a question, how do you start a conversation? I think that's the easiest thing. I think there's nothing is wrong with saying, listen, I am very attracted to you. Get started like that. Start it on a high positive note. Hi, I am very attracted to you. I find you are very handsome, right? But I want to be pure sexually. I want to get married a virgin. I don't want to get involved sexually with anybody that I'm not married to. And so we have to set boundaries, right? Because looking at you, brother, I had to set boundaries, right? That's a good way to do it, right? Because you make him feel real nice there, and then you tell him, well, no touchy, no feely, right? I'll say this for those of you who are Christians and in relationships, that sexual immorality is not just fornication. Sexual immorality it's not just intercourse, not just having, the Bible talk about staying away from fornication, sexual immorality. And you might say that it's just talking about actually having intercourse, but that is not the case, right? I have known Um, I have known, I've known Christian couples who had oral sex and boasted they're virgins when they got married, right? And so for you to think, you would have to really just be a religious person and not have a relationship with God, not understand who God is, and don't even understand what love is. If you think it's okay to have oral sex in a relationship, but not have intercourse and think that God is okay with that, you honestly, you're in a bad place spiritually, right? So now, you see that I ain't going down that road about oral sex in marriage, right? I'm talking about people who get involved in other ways sexually, not intercourse, and they think that it's okay because I did not have intercourse. I'm still a virgin. If I go to a doctor and they check me today, they would say, yes, everything intact, you're still a virgin, right? There's no feather in your cap if you did everything else and you did not have intercourse, right? And so setting boundaries is very, very important. There are certain places that you should not go at all. Again, I would advise every young person, anybody dating, courting, to aspire to be like those three couples in my church who said that they're not going to kiss until they're married, and they did it. Right? Impressive. I didn't even have that as a boundary. I didn't think I needed, that wasn't even a thought, like when I was young, right? To not kiss my boyfriend. I'll be just being honest, right? So I take that as a testament of teaching the young people the right thing when it comes to their sexuality and purity and keeping themselves, right? Because that was not something that was important or taught, I would say, necessarily for me growing up in church, like as a big deal. And so my boundaries were sketchy, right? Yeah. If you don't do this early as well, talk about this early, ladies, you will start to do little things slowly but surely. It will start with holding hands, right? And for some people, I remember the first time my first boyfriend, not my husband, hold my hand, my paws raised when he hold my hand, right? Yeah. And then from there, it's skin, just a little skin to skin and little things, right? And so you have to know yourself, and it's important for you to set those boundaries early, because when you start with the little things, eventually it'll go from that to something else, to something more and more and more. And then you're like, how did we get here? Right? And so you don't leave those things unsaid. And I will be honest, there's very little as a Christian couple, if you want to get married and keep your purity, there's very little things that you can do sexually or intimately to keep yourself pure. So I would suggest you do like those three lovely couples in my church and don't even kiss before you get married, right? Let the first kiss. Actually, when you're by the altar and the pastor, the priest says to, move the veil and kiss the person, it really is supposed to signify that this is the first kiss. That's what it's supposed to be. I'm not getting to kiss your husband and wife for the first time, but we know that custom has gotten thrown out the door, unfortunately, right? Time is running away. Oh my goodness. I did not know it was 9:30. Blah, blah, blah. How's it? Right. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one really quick. Yes, Lisa, holding hands could be sensitive as well, right? I have two more and I will do them really quickly. No, three, right? Boundaries where other women and exes are concerned. That is something that you're in a relationship with somebody, well, especially married, right? What your husband doing being friends with an ex, right? Let's be real. But I mean that should be a given. But unfortunately, it's not. And if you as a woman, you are not comfortable with that and you never say anything, your husband or your boyfriend could assume that you're cool with it. Unless you start throwing a fit, you might hold back, don't say anything because you don't want to come across needy or whatever. 1 second. Right. So you might feel that because your partner might feel that because you never said anything, it means that you're okay with it. And they might ignorantly say, well, she never tell me nothing. I just talk to her all the time and she never tell me nothing. So ladies, it's okay to have boundaries where that is concerned and to communicate that to your boyfriend and to your husband. How much they communicate and time they spend with somebody of the opposite sex, worse yet, their ex, somebody that they were in a previous relationship with. That is not asking too much. You are within your right? To do that. So that is another one. Number 5, how to resolve conflict. And this is a big one. I did not want to have to rush through it, but I am going to because honestly, I didn't know that was the time, right? Everyone should have a boundary around disrespect. Every human being. Every human being. Nobody should be disrespected. But we know what happens when you get into conflict and arguments, right? If every time you get into a conflict or argument with your boyfriend or your husband, it gets to a cussing, shout out, insulting, name calling, that kind of thing. You are supposed to have boundaries where that is concerned. And again, remember we spoke about communicating, right? You cannot expect the person to just assume, to know how it affects you and assume that you have boundaries in this area. You have to communicate that to them. And so you have to tell them things like, when you shout at me, we spoke about shouting earlier. When you shout at me, it makes me feel disrespected. It gets me anxious. When you call me names, I feel hurt. I don't feel valued. You tell them how you feel. But this is where the boundary, this is what a boundary actually is. You say, if you continue to curse me when we get into an argument, I will have to leave. I will leave the room. I will leave the house or whatever and come back when you in a state that we can actually have a conversation. Or I will end the conversation. I am not continuing this conversation because you're not just going to stay there and be disrespected and get cussed out, right? People end up in toxic relationships like that for years because they never stick to the boundaries. They never, leave the house, Tara. You're not doing a bad thing. And don't let the person now manipulate you into thinking that you leaving, you are the bad one. Oh, you walk out on me. You're disrespectful. So you disrespectful now for walking out of the situation, moving away because they was cussing and disrespecting you. That's manipulation. Do not fall for that, right? If you want the person to understand that you're not willing to live with this type of behavior, I'm not willing to live with it. Listen, if you're in a relationship, ladies, and you quarreling with your boyfriend and he's already cussing you and shouting and sorry, ladies, if you're in a relationship, you're not married. Sorry, I'm just distracted, right? And you're not married yet, right? Why I'm saying not married? Sometimes in a marriage, if it gets to that stage in a marriage, sometimes it's you allowed it before, or you didn't have boundaries early in the marriage, and it just continued, and you end up in this toxic relationship, this toxic way of resolving conflict. But if you're not married and your boyfriend is shouting at you and cursing you when you all get into arguments, I want to suggest that you just cut it off. Just cut it off. Now, let's say the person does it once. I remember I gave you all a story about my husband putting some doubles. Yeah, Rishma, like how you're talking, look to press, right? My husband, I shared this too many times. He was eating doubles, and I don't quite know what I said. I know a curse word was involved. I don't remember the extent of the conversation, but I was very disrespectful. We were courted, we weren't married, right? We were going around. And after I said what I had to say, my choice words, I just felt some warm doubles falling on the side of my face, right? And I got mad. Couldn't do much about it because I was driving. But I'll tell you what it did. I'll tell you what it did though. That was his immature way of showing this is a boundary and you can't cross this again, right? Or abusive, whatever you want to call it, right? But what it did for me though is say, okay, this is a line I can't cross. He not willing to accept me communicating this or saying this or cussing when I get vexed, and I don't know, he could correct me if I'm yeah, Tara, I know what you're thinking. What kind of thing is that? How the man could put doubles on your face? He didn't do it hard or anything, he just rest the doubles and just slide off, right? Anyway, it was the last time, needless to say, right? That type of conversation happened. This is before we were married. And so many times people are afraid to stand up for what they believe, and they allow people to disrespect them, and they end up in a place where they're not even being themselves anymore. They're just willing to accept whatever this person is dishing out because of fear of losing the person, fear of pushing them away if you stick to your boundaries. And it's very, very important. So I wouldn't say, I give the example to say, I wouldn't say bust out at the first cuss or disrespect in the relationship. That's wrong. You have the boundary there in the first place to protect yourself. And if the person really does care about you or love you, they will make an adjustment. They'll be like, okay, I might have done this in my previous relationships, but this woman not taking this. This woman not standing for this. Be serious, right? Some men, though, may have an anger problem. It may not be something that is so easy for them to control. And so if they still continue, even though you are taking your leave when it happens and so on, and they're still doing it, that's when you have to come to a decision that I am not willing to live with this level of disrespect. No way am I going to spend the rest of my life when I'm in a conflict with my husband that he cusses me out, calls me names, and belittles me. You can make a choice, right? But if the person really does love and respect you, they will make adjustments. And so boundaries are good, in that respect. Right. I think I said this a million times. It is not a selfish thing to let them know what you need in the relationship, that you need to feel valued, that you need to feel safe. And if you don't hold true to your boundaries in this area, you will end up having an unhealthy, toxic relationship. Hear this, ladies, this is important. There are some people who are not capable of what you deserve. So you may have an idea of giving you, what you deserve. And so you may be fighting up for years in a relationship with somebody who is broken, in a place of probably still living in unforgiveness, somebody who is actually not capable of giving you what you deserve. And you have to realize, because you have boundaries, you're going to realize this and say, okay, this person, this is not a good fit for me. I'm not willing to accept this. This person cannot, because of where they are at in their life, they cannot be that person that you deserve to have in your life, right? And you just have to let that person go and pray that they find the healing and that they get to a place where they value themselves more, and they get the help that they need to be able to actually carry on a healthy relationship, right? If you have to abandon yourself and feelings to keep the relationship going, it's a very unhealthy, you're going to be in a very unhealthy, frustrated life. And this is just going to continue over and over and over, right? So yeah, not all relationships could work. Not everybody could, it's unfortunate. I know some women, they would say, so how much chance to give them? How long to stay? Because I know he keeps saying he will change. There's some people who just not in a place. Let me say this here. I didn't say it before. Not everybody should be in a relationship. Not because you're male and female, it means that qualified. That's not the qualifications for being in a relationship. There's some people that are so broken, so hurt sometimes from past relationships that they should not venture to even go into a relationship. And you might bounce up somebody like that, try to fix them, and end up in a cycle for years, right? So boundaries will prevent you from going into years of that type of unhealthy relationship. Number 6, trust and honesty is something that you deserve. That could only be earned by the person being open and transparent. That's something that develops over time. But every single human being deserves that in a relationship. Honesty and trust. You don't want to be always looking over your shoulder, ladies. You want to know you could trust your boyfriend, you could trust your husband. And again, that's some some people could go into a relationship with past hurts and trauma because their previous boyfriend cheated on them, hurt them, disrespected them. And so they come into this new relationship or at a disadvantage. They don't trust men. They think that this man is going to do the same thing that their other boy. They don't trust them. And so you come into a relationship, the man just really innocent and want to love you and get to know you. But you want him to be so, you're paranoid. So you want to take his phone every minute because every time you hear a beep, if you hear a ding, an alert, you think it's another woman messaging him. And this time it's the boy mommy, the only woman messaging him, besides you, the mother. But because you got burnt in that area, you paranoid and you're going to frustrate the man. So this is an example too of somebody who should not be in a relationship, right? Unless you get to that place of healing, don't go put yourself with somebody and put them in that kind of scenario where they always have to be proven themselves. They never do anything wrong. They're just trying to love you, but they find themselves having to prove themselves to you, you know, and I mean, I just want to be here for you, girl. I not, you know, so, but honesty and trust, these are things that comes with transparency. If you're with somebody and they're hiding a lot, they hide in their phone, they're not honest about their whereabouts a lot, you find that they lie for no reason, that is a reason for mistrust. And you need to let the person know how that makes them feel and let them know if they continue, this relationship can't move forward because you cannot establish a healthy relationship without trust. Impossible, right? That was the last one. That's number 6. Hear this, right? Some boundaries can actually be, I don't want to call it an unhealthy boundary because it's how you feel at the time. I've mentioned it before, right? But people could set boundaries that come from a place of hurt and trauma, and they may be unrealistic, especially coming into a relationship. I spoke about that before, so I kind of mentioned it in trust and honesty. And so you might come into a relationship and say, well, okay, well, I want access to your passwords and I want access to be able to take your phone and read all your messages. The person doesn't have to give you that. I'm not saying that, yeah, but Rhonda, you missed that whole thing. Remember, we talk about female, that was number 4. We did a whole boundary on female friends and exes, right? So because of your boundaries coming from a place of hurt and paranoia, perhaps because of what you went through in your last relationship, some of them, they're unreasonable, and all it will do is put pressure on your innocent partner because they suffering for what you experienced in your past relationships, right? And so some women could come into a relationship with some really unrealistic boundaries, right? You go out, when you go out with the boys, call me every 5 minutes. Really? So I would tell a guy, or let's say the guy doing you that, when you go out with your girlfriends, he's demanding that you call him every 5 minutes and he wants a video call to make sure that you are where you say you are. Those are unreasonable things. If you started to tell me them things early in a relationship, that's a red flag for me, right? So last thing I would say, because we really went late, healthy boundaries are only threatening to unhealthy relationships, right? And so having boundaries shouldn't be a threat to anyone. Your boundaries, we know that they can be unhealthy ones, but I think I listed them. There more, but I listed some that everyone should have. And any man who has a problem with those boundaries, you know you're heading down, it's a red flag, right? So yeah, so ladies, gosh, I'm sorry for going so late, but I want to give you all an opportunity to either comment or ask a question. Rhonda asked a question just now, but I think she probably missed the whole ex and woman thing. That you tell your partner how you feel about his friendship with other women and exes as well. No problem in setting boundaries there. That's your right. Now again, some women, it could come from a place of paranoia and past hurt. So, but I'm talking about just being reasonable. Why your boyfriend going by his ex? For what purpose, right? Yeah. So any questions, comments, anybody would like